2017 Board of Education meeting. First item is we need to approve an agenda.
I'll move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, and we'll move on to the report of the board, the report of the president. And I have a statement to read, and unfortunately I didn't print it out. So if you will give me just a moment to pull it up. I'd like to read a joint statement on behalf of the Board of Education, Dr. Stubblefield, and the Lawrence Education Association to the Lawrence community and beyond. The Lawrence Board of Education, Lawrence Public Schools, and the Lawrence Education Association condemn hate speech, violence, and white supremacy in every form. Our thoughts and sympathies are with the innocent victims affected by the atrocities in Charlottesville, Virginia during the weekend. Our learning community is committed to fighting oppression, injustice, anti-Semitism, and racism. The kind of hate speech seen this past weekend will not be tolerated in our schools. Our school board, administrators, teachers, and staff will continue to work diligently with our students, school families, and community partners to ensure that our schools are safe, and we will act swiftly in the event of threats or actions against our students. It is past time to take a bold stand against racism, anti-Semitism, and white supremacy, forces that have made up the fabric of our society. These forces must be removed from our institutions and from the hearts and minds of us all. USD 497 is on this journey and is committed to continuing these efforts for the sake of our students and for their futures. So, thank you. I wanted to note for the board that I've appreciate everyone's input, and I've completed the board committee and site council assignments, and there is a sheet at everyone's place this evening with those. We discovered a switch that needed to be made, so there's going to be one revision to that, and Dawn is going to make that revision and email out the chart to everybody. I also wanted to note about that because Vanessa and Marcel will be leaving their board service in December, I'll need to revisit the assignments at that point, and so if you have about those, at that point we'll be doing some reshuffling. In addition, I wanted to just comment on a few events that I attended last week. First of all, I was really thrilled to welcome back our teachers and our paraprofessionals at the district-wide Professional Development Day at Lawrence High School on Friday. And I also was so excited to participate in the groundbreaking ceremony on Thursday morning at the College and Career Center for the Boys and Girls Club Teen Center. I got to help turn the dirt, which was so much fun, and it was just a really great celebration of the very strong and continued partnership of our district with Boys and Girls Club. In addition to that, on Wednesday and Thursday, I also attended KASB advocacy sessions, one in Leavenworth, and the second one was here in Lawrence following the groundbreaking at the College and Career Center. And I appreciated that so many of our staff and Dr. Stubblefield, as well as Marcel, were able to attend and hear some information from the KASB advocacy folks. For those of the board members that couldn't make it, I grabbed a copy of the materials because I thought they were really quite good, and put that at each of your seats this evening just for your information. In conjunction with their message, A New Day for Kansas Education, there is a draft letter to the editor that I'll have Dawn circulate, and I wanted everybody to give some feedback and see if it would be something that the board as a whole would be willing to sign on to and submit to the paper. So we'll get that sent out, and if it turns out that that's something that everyone's interested in, we can put that on the agenda to discuss and approve next week. Also wanted to let board members know that I've signed up for, there's a superintendent evaluation training going on next Tuesday. It's an afternoon, like a few hours. I signed up. They are going to be talking about different evaluation methods, and given that we've had some ongoing discussion about the instrument and the method that we're wanting to use, I'm going to attend that, and then hopefully we'll have some information to share with board members after that. So that is the end of my report for this evening, and so we will move on to the report of the superintendent of schools.
Good evening. I have a few things to share with you tonight. First, I plan to sign the statement read by Shannon condemning what occurred in Charlottesville this weekend. As I said in my remarks to all of our staff on Friday during our back-to-school kickoff at Lawrence High on Friday, hate, racism, discrimination, marginalization, and prejudice are all things I wish I did not have to talk about or experience. But they are a reality for me, for our district, and for every student who looks like me or has been othered in any way. The hate speech and violence that occurred this weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia, is why we must continue to fight white supremacy and bigoted groups. On a different note, our teachers and our staff returned to the buildings today for professional development, and we'll have a work day tomorrow. School starts Wednesday for grades 1 through 5 at the elementary level. 6th and 9th graders will have a half-day orientation on Wednesday. All students in grades 1 through 12 will be in session on Thursday, with our kindergartners following an alternate day schedule as announced by their schools on Thursday and Friday. Kennedy staff are doing home visits this week in anticipation of our preschoolers starting the school year on Monday. Speaking of Monday, our district has been planning learning opportunities associated with the solar eclipse. It is estimated that, weather permitting, our view of the sun in Lawrence will be more than 99% blocked by the moon at about 1:07 p.m. We want to remind everyone that it's never safe to look directly at the sun. To safely view the eclipse, specially designed equipment or appropriate safety glasses are required. Thanks to the donation from the University of Kansas, our schools have NASA-approved safety glasses to ensure proper eye protection for all of our students and staff. Our teachers and schools will be communicating with families this week about their specific plans for Monday and opt-out procedures should parents not want their student to participate. Families who choose to witness the eclipse with their children outside of school should notify their school office about that excused absence. There's more information about the eclipse on our website. Just a reminder that there's a special board meeting scheduled for next Monday starting at 5 p.m., the public budget hearing and the board's, next Tuesday, sorry. It is Tuesday, don't come Monday. And the board's consideration of final approval of the budget. I want to reiterate a few facts about the budget, which the board approved for publication last week. The Kansas legislature approved the new school finance formula in June of 2017. The district could not have known the impact of the new formula prior to our facility master planning process, which began in December of 2015 and resulted in the successful school bond election on May 2nd, 2017. The district's estimate of the tax impact on the bond and interest fund as a result of the $87 million bond issue approved by voters on May 2nd remains $2.4 million. This is a conservative estimate and one that was shared widely with the public in the months leading up to the election. In order to lessen the overall tax impact of the new school finance formula on the budget and local taxpayers, the district plans to sell only half the bonds this year. We will also strategically build our bond repayment schedule in order to minimize future bond interest expense. The remaining tax impact of the total budget, a $2.3 million increase, is a direct result of the impact of the state's new school finance formula on the local option budget. The district could not have predicted that after 3 years of flat funding under the state's block grant system that our schools would lose state aid under the way the new finance formula calculates the local option budget. The mill levy increase in the LOB was a result of growth in our district's wealth or assessed valuation and a corresponding reduction in state aid. Some districts do not get state aid for the LOB and are better able to control their LOB locally. Again, we did not know of this impact until all of the state budget form calculations were completed. We also do not know what future changes may occur in the LOB due to the pending school finance case before the Kansas Supreme Court. The district's published mill levy for the 2017-18 of 56.863 mills is lower than our total mill levy has been during 4 of the last 6 years. The 6-year history of the district's mill levy was a slide shared during our 2017 bond election presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to reiterate, because I did a number of those presentations about that slide, and we did talk about it quite a bit and we had the full history, not just for our bond and interest levy, but for all of our different levied funds, and talked about the overall impact that both our decisions about bond issues in 2013 and the potential bond issue that was passed in May, as well as pretty big fluctuations in the state aid that we received for equalization, and how that played out in the overall mill levy. So, I felt like that was ground that was really thoroughly covered in the public presentations that were done leading up to that. Okay, so we will move on now to patron commentary, and we do have one patron commentary form tonight. Julie, are there any others? Just the one? Okay. All right, I'd like to read our guidelines for audience participation. The USD 497 Board of Education appreciates patrons taking time to talk to us about our policies and procedures. We set aside this time during every meeting to hear from the public. This is your time to share your opinions, but we ask that you avoid making comments of a personal nature about district employees or students, including the use of personal names. While you are not required to share your contact information on the form, we ask that you do so in order to follow up with any specific concerns you might have. In such cases, a board member, the superintendent, or another staff member may be in touch with you to refer your concerns to the appropriate administrator for investigation. At that time, we encourage you to share as many details relative to your specific concerns as you are willing to share. We ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you for sharing your thoughts about policies and procedures with the board. And so we will hear from Tom Walton this evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
If you would go to the microphone. Yes, thank you.
I usually try to avoid microphones because I speak rather loudly most of the time. I am going to step outside of your request just a moment ago to not name any names, and I'm going to do so and say, to start with, I want to say thank you to the board members here. Some of you responded to my email last week. Specifically, thank you to Dr. Stubblefield. I did not expect you to be here tonight, but I had noted Dr. Stubblefield and Tina Stipes both reached out to me this week to help resolve a misunderstanding about usage of the buildings for the upcoming FLL tournament, and we did get that resolved, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the help from you and from the others as well. I'll also note that Mr. Paradise did not want me to do this, that he has been encouraging me not to, and to let him work through the proper channels for some time, and I don't always listen very well. And then I also would like to call out Patrick Kelly, who's been an enormous help to us for. I've been involved with Team STEAM this year as a mentor, and he's always been very helpful, helping us to resolve the issues that we have. Anytime we have an issue in the building or there's something that we need done, he's been really helpful with that as well. Let me just say, first of all, let me talk a little bit about FIRST Robotics. I will tell you right from the beginning, I'm a huge fan. For the next several months, just as this time last year, I will spend 3 nights a week on FIRST Robotics. There'll be a couple nights on FIRST LEGO League teams and a night with the Team STEAM folks here as well, along with at least one Saturday a month. Come the early part of next year, it'll be more like 5 nights a week as we work through the 6 weeks that we have of build time. It's a great program, and I participate a lot. One of the reasons I do, we started this, my daughter and I and some of her friends started the FLL team about 4 years ago, about the same time that when FEDMA was starting the Free State Robotics team. And we did so because we were interested in Legos and STEAM and robotics and wanted to participate. We got some of her friends to come, and just as a quick anecdote, one of those friends, the first time we did this, there's a presentation component to FIRST LEGO League, and when they first did it, she begged the team not to give her any lines in the presentation. And 2 years later, she and my daughter were presenting to a group of 80 professional developers in Kansas City about FIRST LEGO League and getting girls in STEM. So I know from my experience this program works. It's a great program, and we have a lot of students who are representative of that as well. And I won't go into any more anecdotes, but I will say that I sent a note to parents this last week, and I got a number of responses back from parents of students in the, on the team, and many of them expressed how much this team has changed their students' lives. And I won't go into any details, but it just sort of underscores where I'm coming from and why I think it's important to me and to the rest of the group. Some of the reasons are the values that the FIRST organization espouses. Some of those values, my favorite is that we all learn together. The mentors don't know everything, and that's really handy because I certainly know I don't know everything. And it's nice to be able to talk to the kids about, hey, here's an idea. What do you think of this? And have them go and dig into what it takes to do that. This last year, I went to them and said, there's these things on the field that you can look for in vision processing. And they took that, and they figured out how to add an additional processor to the robot and how to interface with the camera and find the things that they needed to find on the field. And they did all the vision processing themselves. And it was quite a challenge for them, and it was a challenge for me and the other mentor that was there to keep ahead of them, to keep pointing them in what we thought was the right direction. So also, they focus a lot on cooperation, which is a word that my phone wouldn't even let me enter, and graceful professionalism. And some of the things that come out of that is there was a point at which at the tournament last year for the FRC team, we were working on the practice field, and our robot wouldn't connect with the controllers that we use to work with it. And one of the kids just out of the blue jumped up and ran off to the nearest team to ask for a router because he had the expectation that they would be happy to lend us one. And not only did they lend us one, they came over to help us get our robot set up so that we could practice and be more competitive than we would have been otherwise. This is the same kind of organization that people show up to with a robot that's not completed because they didn't get it done in the 6 weeks, with the expectation that other teams will come and help them finish their robot so that they can participate in the tournament as well. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. I really believe in this. So I also think that it's an excellent preparation for life and work. These are the kind of kids that I hire. I hire a lot of people, and these are the kind of people, and these are the kind of values that I look for in the people that I want on my team and that I want to work with. And FIRST is really good at instilling those kind of values in them, along with teaching them about technology, which I also find quite important. Additionally, FIRST provides access to $50 million this year in scholarships, so it helps to encourage kids to continue on in school and go beyond where we were. I know that we're looking at requirements for Kansans Can. One of them is to continue education in, and FIRST is a good way to help with that. I will say last year, 2 years ago, the team, and the year before that, the team averaged around 8 to 12 individuals. Last year, we more than doubled that. We had about 40 individual students involved in the team last year. Based on the preparation that we've done this year, talking to other 8th grade students, we fully expect it to be another 20, 30 kids that are joining this year. So I anticipate we will be seeing 60 to 70 students participating in this. And the great thing about FIRST is that you don't have to be fast, you don't have to be big, you can be anyone at all. You can be fast and you can be big and you can still participate. You can also be the nerdy kid like me and still be able to participate in this and be successful and learn a lot from it. And learn teamwork from it that we get mostly from sports. So that brings me to why did I come besides saying thank you. The other thing is to underscore the other part of my note was a request for one additional coaching help. We have one coach for the team with 60 to 70 kids likely involved this year. That's a lot of kids for one coach to deal with. The time commitment for this program is enormous. We meet in the off-season all the way through the summer, all the way through the spring and the fall. We meet one night a week, every week, and at least one Saturday a month to teach the kids what we want them to know in time for the next season. So that alone, because the coach has to be there all the time to be in the building, that's an enormous commitment for him. During the build season, the 6 weeks that run from early January to the middle of March, it is 5 nights a week and Saturdays as well. And we have to have somebody there the whole time. So another coach would be very helpful, perhaps some way to relax the rules such that some of the mentors could participate as the leadership might be helpful as well. We did have last year 7 mentors involved, people who are committing their time to this, and I anticipate that we'll have at least those same 7 mentors the next year and perhaps a couple of more.
Mr. Walton,
Okay.
I don't want to cut you off, but my timer went off for 5 minutes, probably about a minute and a half ago. So
Okay,
we can
I'm
wrap
sorry.
up.
One more thing then, and that was the second part of my additional request, is that there are 60 to 70 kids involved in this. I think we could use some extra funding. The kids do most of their fundraising on their own. They do so by getting sponsorships for the things that they do. They're doing so this year by doing the FLL tournament as well, which will be a fairly substantial amount of money for the team. But we really could use some additional help. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for your comments this evening. Just wanted to let you know that in addition to the issue with the building, that administrative staff and building leadership are looking into all of this and looking at the participation in the club. And I anticipate there will be some follow-up discussions about that.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. At this juncture, let's move on to board commentary. And Marcel, do you have some?
Yeah, real quick. I was just going to give an update on the Horizon 2020 Steering Committee. So for those that don't recall, the Horizon 2020 is the comprehensive planning document for Lawrence and unincorporated Douglas County. Essentially that guides and determines how we grow and develop as a community. And so it was originally developed back in the early 90s, and then it's been amended to over the years, but back in late 2013, the community decided it was time for a major update. And so they formed a steering committee at the time to help with that process, to help guide that process. And so subsequently, there's been several rounds of community involvement to gather input. Dr. Dole, who was the original district representative on that committee, and then I replaced him in early 2015 and have been on the committee since then. Essentially, it's been fairly dormant, I guess, for the last year because the planning department has essentially taken all that input and been working on the draft document. And so now it's finally ready. And so they plan to release it for a final, basically, chance for the public to provide input on it. And so the release date is set for August 22nd. There's going to be a public window period between the 22nd of August and October 23rd. And then at that point, all the comments will be collated and given to the steering committee to review, and there'll be some other rounds then at that point with the steering committee and the planning department to get that a recommended draft finalized, and hopefully before the end of the year. And at that point, then it goes to the planning commission. If they approve it, then it goes to the city and the county for final approval, and at that point, it's adopted for final. So I would just recommend the public to take another look and provide input on that. I'd also recommend that teachers, this planning document is essentially for the future of our community, and students are part of that. And so this is a great opportunity for teachers as part of the classroom, part of any activities that they're doing. It's for students to provide input on that document as well. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other board commentary?
Yes. In addition to the statement that we made as a board, I feel like this is an opportunity for us to really get together with the Equity Advisory Council and the Delta team and really be proactive so that we don't run into a situation like Charlottesville. I believe that we have the tools and the resources, but we really probably need to, I highly recommend sometime in the near future that we kind of collaborate with them, the district, the Delta team and the EAC and members within the buildings and the district level so that we can really be proactive, so.
It's also my understanding that the LEA is helping to put together some materials to support teachers in having conversations with students about the events that have taken place, and I don't know
Yeah,
where that's
we
at.
actually, the Teaching and Learning Department, along with Danica and Leah Wisdom, who are both in our equities, we have a document that is being finalized. It's actually very similar to what we sent out last year about when you're having conversations, updating that, and it'll be sent out probably tomorrow sometime, but yeah.
Jessica?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to follow up by thanking Lori and the LEA. We started talking about our statement over the weekend and reached out to the LEA, asking if they wanted to go in on a joint statement, and enthusiastically they did. So I think this is a really good example of us really trying to work together to tackle some really important, heavy issues in our district. So thank you to the LEA.
And I want to thank both you and Shannon for taking the initiative to do that. Appreciate that. And Vanessa as well. Thank you.
So, yes. All right. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are those that are considered routine and are adopted by one motion unless any board member or the superintendent requests that an item be removed. The item or items removed are voted on separately.
I move the Board of Education adopt the items listed on the consent agenda.
A second?
Second.
Dawn, can you call the roll, please?
Beeson,
Yes.
Fincher,
Yes.
Harmon,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Sandburn.
Yes.
Vote passes 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to reports and approvals this evening. Our first report is on our architect and engineer design team selection for the 2017 bond projects with Kyle Hayden, Chief Operations Officer.
Good evening, Kyle Hayden, Chief Operations Officer. Just want to update you on a few things, including interviews for our architectural design teams who also work as our construction administrative services team, and kind of go back a little bit and review what we've accomplished to this point. So following the May 2nd approval of the bond issue, the $87 million bond issue, we began the process of putting out requests for qualifications for both our construction management at-risk firms, but also our architectural design firms. One of the things, why is that doing that? Okay, so, new technology up here, this is crazy. I'm used to grabbing the mic. But as we were engaging in that process, the first step that we wanted to do was hire our construction management teams. We brought that to you a little while ago, July 3rd to be exact. McCown Gordon Construction was one of the firms, and they got a large portion of the work. To remind you, it was Lawrence High, Lawrence Free State High School, Liberty Memorial Central, South Middle School, Southwest Middle School, and West Middle School. And then Marland Construction was the firm we hired to work on the Lawrence College and Career Center, along with the Boys and Girls Club Teen Center partnerships, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. I'm still working on the contracts with our legal counsel, our outside legal counsel, and hope to have those contracts to you for the construction management at risk for the next board meeting. So they're coming along quite nicely.
Kyle, is that for the special meeting on the 22nd or for our next regular?
September 11th, sorry. Yeah, next regular meeting. Thank you. So now on to this item. We moved on to hiring our architecture firms, and one of the things that was part of it this year that we kind of a different approach than we took last time is we asked the architect firms to come with their teams, which includes their engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, civil engineers. And so last time we hired those separately, but this time we thought it was important that they establish their teams right away. With the RFQ, we had 8 firms that put in for requests for qualifications. We narrowed it down to 4. The 4 that we ended up interviewing were BG Consultants, Clark Huseman, Gould Evans, and then Trainer HL. And we had a similar process as we did last time, where there was an interview team, including Shannon and Marcel, myself, Tony Barron, Tricia Brooke Front, Matt Brungart, the principal at Lawrence High School, Myron Grable, the principal at Free State High School, and then Brad Kemp, the principal at West Middle School. So we had good representation, a broad representation in that group. And then we also had the construction manager at risk for McCown Gordon, Luke Dietz, join us. We felt like his perspective was really important, and he was of great value to us also. As we went through that process, there was a number of criteria that we looked at, once again, similar to our CM at risk, where we were looking at the firm information, their management approach, really wanted to focus in on how they were going to approach 21st century teaching and learning, and if they had not only knowledge of it, but experience in creating spaces like that, because as we've talked about for years, that's an essential component to why we're making the improvements. The other thing is a real focus on how to make buildings higher performing buildings, how to create a quality environment as far as aesthetically, air quality, daylight, the connection between the classroom, indoor and outdoor. So those types of things were the things we were looking for. We had 4 good interviews and ultimately decided to award the high school packages, both Lawrence High School and Free State High School, to Gould Evans Architects. We awarded the middle school projects, the 4 middle schools, to Clark Huseman Architects, and then the Lawrence College and Career Center to Trainer HL. I do want to talk a little bit about these firms. I know you guys probably know a few of these just because we've had a long relationship, especially with Gould Evans, but for those who don't know about Gould Evans, we've had a long-term relationship in the district. Of course, they helped us with the master planning for this particular bond issue. They did a bulk of a work for the 2013 bond issue, including some fabulous projects: Quarterly, Hillcrest, New York, Sunset Hill, Pinckney, and Woodlawn. They bring a very innovative, research-based approach, not only just with a presence locally, but regionally and nationally. And they were able to articulate that and share that. And so we have a lot of confidence in Gould Evans to deliver very good projects for us. Clark Huseman Architects is really a new partner for us, but they're also local. Steve Clark, Jane Huseman, worked together in Lawrence for over 20 years. They have a long record of projects, not only in the school business, but community in Lawrence, and 90% of their work has been in renovation. And so we really felt like that fit well with the middle school projects. And then they also have demonstrated a very keen ability to transform library and media spaces, including our local library, a community library, which they had a real hand in that too. So both of those teams, and I mentioned earlier that we asked them to bring a team, including their engineer teams. They partnered with Henderson Engineers. Henderson also, if you didn't know this, was part of our master planning process. They partnered with Gould Evans on that and did a lot of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing evaluation and came up with quantifying some numbers and the type of things that we needed to address. They were a big piece of the bond issue. The 2013 bond had about half the work in that bond issue. So once again, they're very familiar with us and us with them. They're led by Doug Everhart, and Doug is a Lawrence resident, kids go to our schools, and so we have a real local presence in our teams. And then the final team member is Trainer HL. Trainer used to office here, so we've known them for a long time. Been in Lawrence for over 30 years, closely connected to our community and the school district. They have a real strength in career-centered learning environments, have done a lot of work, not only locally, but regionally, KCK. And so Chris Cunningham is going to be the lead architect there. He's been working on the Boys and Girls Club Teen Center project for over a year, and so we're comfortable with where we're at with that project also, and looking forward to it. So we've assembled a strong team. What we're asking for tonight is just preliminary approval for us to enter into contract negotiations similar that we've done with the CM at risk, and then bring those contracts to you for approval at a later date.
Thank you, Kyle. There's two things I wanted to add based on the interview process that Marcel and I participated in. First of all, I think one of the things that really stood out in the firms that we selected, we asked them some questions in the interview about their approach to involvement of the school communities in the design process, and we're really felt really confident based on the processes that they've used for previous school projects and how they described what that would look like for us. And so I'm really excited about that piece of the work that they will be doing. The second thing, which Clark Huseman had some really great experience working on a historic school. They did a major renovation of a historic school in Iowa. And so that was something that, in terms of particularly with Liberty Memorial Central, but as Mr. Kemp pointed out, West is almost a historic school based on how old it is. Not in the same way, but it's a much older building, and we felt like they would bring some really great experience to the table in that area. So just wanted to share that. And Marcel, you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is that both Gould Evans and Clark Huseman have experience, or at least Clark Huseman's partner, they have experience doing research in K through 12 environments. So they, particularly Gould Evans, they have a research studio in Kansas City with their practice lead there that partners with some local districts and university there, Rockhurst University, to conduct their own research that they implement within their projects, and they also do evaluations of their projects and pull that back in. And Clark Huseman's partner also is a national firm with lots of experience in K through 12 that do their own research as well. So if both felt comfortable having that added element to our team members.
Kyle, do you want to address the Clark Huseman partnership? Other board members may not know what Marcel is referencing, that they are partnering with Stantec.
Stantec, so yeah, Stantec is a nationally recognized firm. I've done a lot of work in particular in Texas, but also we're part of the design of Olathe West High School, their newest high school, which is a very modern, high-tech, high-performance school that would, cutting-edge type of learning environment. A lot of aspects that you would want to capture from a sustainability perspective, they took into consideration with that. And so Clark Huseman reached out to Stantec and is using them just as a consultant, basically like a sub-consultant to help them and have another set of eyes on these projects. And I think they'll be really valuable. But Clark Huseman is clearly the lead architect in this. But we'll just use the experience and the wealth of experience from Stantec to help them.
Board members have any questions? Other comments? Okay, there's a motion then.
Okay. I move the Board of Education approve to proceed with contract negotiations for architectural design and construction administration services with Gould Evans, Clark Huseman, and Trainer HL.
Second.
Fincher,
Yes.
Harmon,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Sanborn,
Yes.
Yes.
motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our reports for this evening. The first report is the Boys and Girls Club Teen Center with Kyle Hayden, Chief Operations Officer, Patrick Kelly, Principal of the College and Career Center, and Colby Wilson, Director of the Boys and Girls Club.
So this is a presentation that's been a long time coming, I can tell you. If you look at the board enclosure, this goes back to a conversation, I don't know if you guys even remember this, sitting in a conference room across the way here with Dr. Dole and some people on the Boys and Girls Club board. and talking, just brainstorming about the future of the teen center and the needs from the Boys and Girls Club. And from that, we brought, or Dr. Dole brought to you back in January 2015, an approval request for a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club so that they could begin to talk publicly to people about the potential of this teen center and locating it adjacent to the College and Career Center. And so that was kind of the beginning point for that. And from there, it's been a couple years now, a journey to get to this point where we're finally ready to talk very publicly about the project, at least at the board level. Through those months and years now, for Colby in particular, he's been working diligently at fundraising through the Boys and Girls Club to help fund this project. And we're fortunate to be able to be a part of that and to be able to serve our kids in this way. Obviously, you guys know about the loan partnership. Colby's going to talk a little bit about that with the Boys and Girls Club. But part of this is kind of the legal things that need to happen too. As I mentioned, the Boys and Girls Club has been fundraising for a couple years, and part of this agreement is that we would give them the ground adjacent to the College and Career Center to construct the facility. So they're fundraising for it. They're going to go through the process of actually constructing the facility. They've hired an architect, Trainer HL. They have a construction firm, Marlan, both of which we've also are contracting with for the improvements to the College and Career Center because it just made sense to do so. But they've contracted with them to do the construction work on this. We've been helping with the design of that, in particular Patrick Kelly, Tony Barron over the course of the last year, so that we had a very collaborative approach, a cooperative approach to making sure that the space was usable from an educational perspective during the day, and then from a teen center perspective after school hours. So that's what's been taking place. But as part of that, the board would need to approve a ground lease. It's called a ground lease for them to construct the facility on that site. And then there would be another lease that would say that once the facility is constructed, that they would then donate that facility to the school district, and the school would then take ownership of it and maintain it for the life of the facility. And also, as part of that agreement, the Boys and Girls Club would be able to house their offices there. They would also be able to do their some teen programming after school and into the evening hours every day. And then on days where school wasn't in session and during the summer, they would have access to not only this new addition, the improvements to the College and Career Center or the new Boys and Girls Club Teen Center, but then I also have access to the College and Career Center. And these guys are going to talk a little bit about that more specifically and show you some pretty cool stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to Colby Wilson, Director of Boys and Girls Club, and Patrick Kelly, our Principal of the College and Career Center.
Thank you, Kyle. Board members, Dr. Stubblefield, thank you for having me tonight. Excited to be here this evening. I do want to take just a few minutes to back up a little bit, talk a little bit about the partnership, how we ended up where we are today. As many of you know, the Boys and Girls Club and the Lawrence Public Schools have been working together for over 17 years. We have a Boys and Girls Club site in every elementary school, all 14 elementary schools. And it's more than just about sharing space. We do joint staff trainings and professional development. We learn together about positive behavior support systems, how to help students with special needs, and we have courageous conversations about race. Club staff are members of the building leadership teams and mental health teams at the schools. Administrative staff to work together to make sure we are making progress on academic outcomes. AmeriCorps volunteers from the club work in schools to help move the needle on math and reading. Over the past 17 years, the partnership has contributed to some incredible results. Per capita, Lawrence is now home to one of the largest Boys and Girls Clubs in the nation. Our membership has grown from 150 kids to over 3,000. 63% of the public elementary students are members of the Boys and Girls Club. Most importantly, the graduation rate has increased, and the achievement gap for economically disadvantaged youth and kids of color is closing. We've made tremendous progress, but there's still a gap in our community. We serve elementary students well, but when they really need us the most, and when Boys and Girls Club does a lot of its best work, middle school and high school, we're currently falling short. The current teen facility is small and outdated and cannot meet the needs of all the middle school kids who have graduated from our elementary program. When school starts this week, we will currently have about 70 members attending the small teen center over on Haskell, and really it should fit about 50, and these are all middle school kids. Because the existing site is too crowded, we have had to turn kids away in the past, and we expect to start a waiting list very soon after school starts. So aside from our program, there are very few affordable structured programs available after school and during the summertime for teens. As a result, thousands of teens are on their own after school and during the summertime, a time when they should be thinking about what they're going to do after high school, a time when they are being exposed to drugs, alcohol, and relationship pressures, a time when they make decisions that could affect the rest of their lives. So with this new facility, we'll be able to provide a safe, positive place for these kids, and we can continue to make a difference in their lives. So I've presented to this board before. I've been before you several times to talk about the need, our vision for solving this problem, asking you to expand our partnership by utilizing the College and Career Center and the land next to it. And I'm here tonight with exciting news. Last Thursday, we held our groundbreaking ceremony for the Don and Beverly Gardner Center for Great Futures. In September, we will begin construction on this facility, and in August 2018, our vision will become a reality. So I'm going to show you some designs of the facility as we go through this. Patrick's going to help me. We're going to tag team this because it's so beneficial to both the Boys and Girls Club and the College and Career Center program. But I still want to emphasize that this is about the mission of our two organizations, and this facility is going to be a great tool to help us achieve those missions. So I think Kyle did a great job kind of orienting you here on what we're looking at. But essentially, this is the existing College and Career Center here. This would be the Boys and Girls Club addition attached to the College and Career Center. And you can see some of the site work that's planned there. These are some exterior 3D renderings of the two spaces together. So as we got into design, Patrick, Tony, Kyle, and I, with Trainer HL, we really started to think about, okay, let's stop thinking about Boys and Girls Club, Teen Center separate from College and Career Center. Let's think about this facility as one facility, a state-of-the-art College and Career Center during the day, during the school day, and then a state-of-the-art Boys and Girls Club teen facility after school and during the summertime. So I think once we got there, we really had a lot of success of identifying space that can be used together, spaces Boys and Girls Club didn't have to build, opportunities for Patrick to improve the current College and Career Center design, things that he learned over the last couple of years and do some things differently there. So we'll just get into it a little bit here. These are a little bit different than what I usually look at, but I'll do my best here. So this is the College and Career Center here. This is the line, essentially. Everything below that line is existing College and Career Center space. Anything above the line would be new addition Boys and Girls Club space. The colored spaces are essentially the upstairs of the two facilities. Are you with me? Okay, just making sure. So you walk in the College and Career Center here, and these are all the lobby spaces, classrooms, some great, flexible space that we have. So the College and Career Center has great academic science, technology, engineering, math, spaces, tools, all the technology that kids could want to use and both need to use to learn those types of skills and get into, maybe some pre-college exploration on some of those things. And so that's going to be such an advantage for the teens that are coming there after school. And you can just kind of look at, in addition to the classrooms, which here we are on the bottom level here, the lower level. Again, everything below this line is College and Career Center. So these are this is a computer lab, classroom. That will be the new culinary kitchen, the ideation space, those types of things. Add to the great academic space, there's a lot of great multi-purpose space that we were able to, look at using after school and during the summertime. So that was just tremendous for us to be able to kind of use all of that great space. But the College and Career Center in itself, as amazing as it is not enough to get teens to choose to come there after school and during the summertime. And that's what we're talking about here, is a choice. In the elementary programs, many times the parents are making that choice for kids to stay at the Boys and Girls Club on site after school. So we had to create this cool, fun spaces that maybe don't exist. Well, many of us think they're cool and fun. There's other things that the teens want to experience, and interest-based spaces that that will draw them to this facility, and then we can utilize some of the great academic and career exploration spaces that are there as well. So we're going to build the gym, the performing arts space here, audio, video production rooms. We're relocating the maker space, the design build space, all those cool spaces. And next, I kind of want to, you can, I think, get a feel for how the Boys and Girls Club is going to utilize this facility. But again, this is a win-win for everybody. And I think there's some things that Patrick is going to want to do in our facility in the future. And I want him to come up and kind of talk about what his vision for some of that programming looks like.
Hello, I'm Patrick Kelly. We're very excited about the partnership with Boys and Girls Club, not only because it's more space, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, but also because I think it reinforces our design principles. We believe very much at the College and Career Center in hands-on project-based learning, and to have the Boys and Girls Club come to us and say, we like what you're doing, we'd like to do that with our kids too. And we'd like to design our spaces to look like yours so they can do that. That's pretty exciting. I think that's reinforcing. We also believe in post-secondary preparation. And so we think those teen center kids should benefit from that as well. Seeing college students. We have a lot of college students that are taking courses there in the evening at the same time the Boys and Girls Club kids are coming and going. So I think that's a good indication of how important that is. And finally, business and industry involvement. Having these spaces where members of business and industry can come in and work with our students. Some of the spaces that you see up here aren't new to us, but are maybe being rethought. So if I can do this correctly, this purple space right here will be a reimagination of our maker space. We have a maker space at the College and Career Center. We made some mistakes. That's good. We like failing. It's okay. We learn what we made mistakes on. We didn't put a sink in our maker space, so anytime we paint, we got to go to the bathrooms and clean out our brushes and things like that. The new one will have a sink. It's very great. We build the Casa Playhouse every year, and we didn't create a way for our students to go in and out of the facility to move heavy, large equipment and large pieces. So the new makerspace has a garage door that opens up to an exterior makerspace. Those are some of the things that we just didn't think about, and through this partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, it expands our program. We brought over our video production. I think probably all of you have seen some of our great work done by Scott Smith and our advanced video production students. They don't have a studio out there. This will give them I'm not going to say state of the art, but it's a totally awesome studio for mixing and for also doing interviews and some audio work. Those need to be closed spaces so they don't pick up outside noise. And those spaces have been designed, they're sort of up here in the purple. And then for us, believe it or not, it's not big enough. We get more requests. I don't think people realize, last year we had 8,000 people visit the College and Career Center in one way, shape, or form. And the number that we get is, we want to have a large meeting there. We want to have a large group there. We want to have a large meeting and then break it into lots of small groups. So this meeting space, this common space we have here is awesome, but it holds about 100, maybe 125 people. You can imagine what we could do in the gym if we needed to have a larger space. We do all our new teacher induction there. Boys and Girls Club does their training there. We have lots of people who come in the building. And so having that space is something we can use. Probably though, what I think we really need to hit on as part of our bond issue is this culinary space. I'll go to the next slide. We've really come full circle. So the first time we ever thought about sending kids away from the high school to take a class that was 2 hours long for hands-on project-based learning was actually at our culinary center at Holcomb Park. Remember when Kyle and I walked out there, and I don't know that he totally knew we were doing it, but we walked out there and we sort of explained what we were doing out there, that kids were leaving their high school for a couple hours and doing some culinary work. It's at our Holcomb Park facility. You guys know the challenges of our Holcomb Park facility. Almost all the equipment that is in this new facility is exactly what it's at Holcomb. We have good stuff there. We just need better infrastructure. It needs to be designed better. The new space will be both used by our culinary classes and by the Boys and Girls Club. So with thinking in mind, we really separated storage space, so there's no arguing about whose macaroni is whose, but also took advantage of a passway that goes underneath the stairs so we can use a space we have really underutilized since we opened. That's that little cafe space downstairs. We never have brought food service in there. We've never been able to pull that kind of thing off. Now our students will be able to do that, and they won't be serving lunch or anything like that, but we have a space where they can come through. It comes right out of the back of the kitchen and right around. So I think it should be pretty slick and the real thing. And then I want to hit on one last thing, because I think we sort of tiptoe around this, and it's really too bad that we do. We're getting a deal here, folks. I mean, a real deal. Think of a partnership created this, where we're being able to use space in a partnership, and that's really amazing. We are just about to open our new auto shop over at Peasley Center. It's about 5 times the size of the auto shop at Lawrence High, and we paid very little for it. This is what partnerships can do for us. They're tough on our staff. They don't want to share stuff. They really want their own stuff. They're tough on administration because you got to sort of balance and do all the legal stuff. But partnerships can create great opportunities for our community. This is a tremendous asset, this entire campus for our community, and it's because of the work Colby's done to bring people together. It's because Marvin Hunt and that whole team over at Peasley Tech has done to bring people together. This is smart economically for our community. So thank you for your vision on it. Turn it back over to Colby.
Thank you, Patrick. So I'll just close with some next steps and then answer questions. Now that construction's underway over the next year, we're going to be shifting gears to program development, getting out into our middle schools and high schools and making sure kids know that this type of facility is going to be available to them after school come August 2018. We're going to coordinate space sharing and logistics and the things Patrick talked about with the College and Career Center. We're going to work with business and government to identify local, state, and national needs. What are the gaps out there, and how do we establish programs to meet these needs? We're going to maintain and build relationships with our secondary schools and leaders to ensure that we have effective recruiting of team members, a collaborative approach to youth development, and we establish benchmarks for goals and outcomes, post-graduation plans, those types of things. So we're excited to get into that phase of it. Again, this facility is going to be an amazing tool, and it's going to allow us to do so much more as far as helping kids graduate high school with a plan. We're excited about this opportunity. I want to thank the district for many years of support and leadership. I also want to recognize our staff team that's in the audience tonight. They've heard me tell this story probably a couple hundred times over the last 3 years, and they keep coming back. So I think that shows how much they believe in it and want it to happen. And then I also want to thank Kyle Hayden, Patrick Kelly, and Tony Barron for their involvement. It's been a year and a half of design work. I mean, these things, when you're talking about this level of partnership and millions of dollars, you know, this is not easy to pull together as far as a public-private partnership. And so where they had the will to make it work. You know, there was every opportunity to say, nah, legally that's, you know, or whatever. But they didn't do that. They saw that this was the right thing for the kids in our community, and now we're here today about to start building this thing. So thank you guys for that. It's going to be a great thing for our young people. Any questions?
Any questions for Colby? I want to share with the board that staff recommendation is going to be that we're going to have some of these formal agreements that have been mentioned probably coming back to the board for review and approval at the first September meeting. I wanted to say to Colby to thank you for your leadership and vision and for the work of your board. I was just so excited to see the outpouring of support at the groundbreaking, and I know that is just the tip of the kind of financial support that you've had to go out into the community and gather to make this happen. And so thank you to you and your team for making this happen. It's such an exciting opportunity. I followed up attending the groundbreaking by going to the KASB event and got to do an interview that they put on Facebook Live, and we talked about how important this partnership and how exciting it was that we had this event and the partnership with Boys and Girls Club and what that meant in terms of how that ties into the goals that then we were talking about through the State Board Vision and Kansans Can, and how this is just, it's exactly the kind of partnership that will help us be successful in meeting those goals. And so it was really exciting to be able to share that with you know, hopefully people around the state will be hearing about this partnership and the great work that we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone that attended. I know Jill was there, Dr. Stubblefield spoke. It was really great. Jasmine spoke, and the students that spoke were just really inspiring. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right. Great. Okay, we'll move on to our next report, a negotiations update with David Cunningham, Executive Director of Human Resources and Chief Legal Counsel.
Good evening. We thought we would just give you a brief, as a whole board, a brief update on negotiations. Has been reported, we began negotiating on May 1st, thereabouts, and met 7 different times. We were not able to reach agreement on salary. All the other items that we discussed, we were able to come to some compromise, and so salary was the remaining item for which we agreed to file a joint declaration of impasse. Impasse is simply a procedure within the statutory negotiation scheme that allows the parties to notify the State Department of Labor, who then notifies Federal Mediation Conciliation Services, and then they assign a federal mediator to come in and visit with both parties about whether there's a basis for an agreement. I have received a call from the federal mediator a little more quickly than I anticipated we would. So I talked with Lori Folsom, president of LEA, today. She had also received a call. We were both in meetings, and so we have to call her back tomorrow. But we will be getting that scheduled as soon as we possibly can. I thought it would take a little longer, but things moved very quickly, so that's a good thing. We've been at mediation before. It doesn't happen often, but we have been there before, and it's a very good procedure for trying to recognize areas where you do have agreement and then come together and find some compromises. I've outlined some of the other procedures there. If we're not able to reach agreement through mediation, we would go into fact-finding, where the state would then provide a list of people that would sit and hear a formal presentation by both parties, then come back with a recommendation. The parties then come back to the table and continue negotiating. So we're optimistic that we'll be able to reach agreement at fact-finding and move forward. At any point in the procedure, we can always come back to the table. Once you begin impasse, you're not locked into all of those subsequent procedures. So if anything should happen and we want to, we certainly can return to the table. You can suspend mediation while you visit about possible alternatives. If they're not going to work, then you bring the mediator back in. So it's a very dynamic and flexible kind of environment where you're really trying to find those areas for compromise and reach agreement. Since we are at impasse, the administration is recommending that we proceed with a report on August 22nd related to the other employee groups. Those employee groups are not an impasse. They don't negotiate with the board, so the board is legally capable of proceeding with compensation decisions for classified and administrative staff. So we would recommend that you allow us to go ahead and make those presentations on the 22nd so that you can make determinations on the other employee groups.
Okay, questions for David?
So I would say, do you feel like we need to discuss anything further in executive session as a board at this point? I ask you because you're my fellow.
Right.
student.
I think we probably should. I think that we should go to executive session and just discuss negotiations as a board prior, I mean, unless you think we'll have an ample opportunity to do that before the mediation session.
At this point, I don't have a time frame on that.
Okay,
On that,
so I'm going to
schedule.
move that we recess to executive session to protect the public interest in negotiating a fair and equitable contract, to discuss negotiations with Anna Stubblefield, Jerry Kimball, David Cunningham, Kathy Johnson, Sam Reed Devon, invited to be present, and with the board to return to open session.
How much time do you want?
15 minutes, probably.
Okay, so let's
I
return.
can't really do that math.
8:07, 17.
8:25.
Let's say 8:25.
Okay.
Okay. We got a
Second.
motion. Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I can't ever get it just right. Like Goldilocks. Well, now I feel like it's right.
Okay, so we are back from executive session. Want to give the board an opportunity to ask any additional questions that they would like to ask on this one. All right, we do have a motion in the board enclosure. I have a motion.
I move that the Board of Education allow administration to present classified and administrator employee compensation recommendations on August 22nd, 2017.
Second.
Harmon,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Sandburn,
Yes.
Beeson,
Yes.
and Fincher.
Yes.
Okay,
The motion passes 6-0.
thank you. All right.
Got the next one.
Oh, you do. That's right. All right. So the last item is for discussion and approval, screen search firm RFIs for the superintendent search with David Cunningham, Executive Director of Human Resources and Chief Legal Counsel.
So we sent out to you the proposals we had received from Hazard Young and Atia, School Exec Connect, and Ray and Associates. Basically, just some opportunity for you to discuss those proposals to determine which, if any, of these firms you would like to invite to make a presentation. I have indicated to them tentatively the plan to have them join us on the 22nd of August to make their presentations. I think you have a little bit of flexibility if you would like a little more time, and I could notify them. One of the options would be for you to go ahead and have a meeting on the 28th of August. I would not recommend waiting beyond the 28th. I think most of these schedules that are in here contemplate even meeting with the board to begin the process as early as August 29. So I wouldn't recommend delaying any decision on when you interview firms and make your final choice. Yeah, I think if you go into September, you're going to push your envelope a little bit, but certainly going to the 28th would be okay.
Okay, can you, I'm sorry, I apologize, I wasn't really listening. Just gonna put it out there. Yeah, so did you say that you had told them the 22nd?
I had told them the 22nd.
But we could push it to the 28th?
If necessary, we could push to the 28th if there was a desire to spend a little more time developing questions, for example, or other aspects of your review.
And I think I want to jump in here. You looked like you're about to say something, so why don't you go first?
Yeah, well, I think it's what you're about to say. I had questions about, because we had requested a proposal from Kansas Association of School Boards, and so I think you're about to tell us why they're not included.
Well, I had a statement to share from John Heim, who's their executive director. Due to our involvement with helping place the interim superintendent, we feel it's best that the board use a firm that has a fresh perspective and look at the needs desired by the Board of Education. We are ready and willing to support and assist in any way possible as the new superintendent is brought on board. In addition to that, I had a conversation with John this last week, and he made me aware of something that I didn't realize, which is that even though they have chosen not to submit an RFI for our superintendent search, as part of our membership in KASB that we pay for annually anyway, KASB staff would be able to come in and help us formulate questions for the interviews of the search firms, similar to the kind of service that they provided with our interim superintendent search. So if that is something that the board is interested in doing, my thought would be that we probably would need to push off the actual interviews and set a special meeting on the 28th to do interviews and have some time to have someone from KASB come and work with us on formulating the interview questions for the search firm. If board members are comfortable with just either formulating our own set of questions or just asking questions similar to how we did when we interviewed the firms the last time, we wouldn't necessarily need to push it back. We could do it on the 22nd. So wanted to get a sense from board members as to where you are about that issue, and then, you know, are we going to bring all three of them back or some number of those three?
I'm not sure how I feel about needing help with search firm questions. I'll put that out there, but I do think that considering we're going to have the budget hearing on the 22nd, I would be more comfortable waiting until the 28th. I know that means another meeting, but.
Okay.
And I'm still thinking through whether we need help or not, but it might not be a bad idea. I mean, I'm just thinking through the
Right, I
last.
know.
I'm thinking
Think
through the
about
last
our
process.
history
So
here.
I mean, I'm not
I might-
opposed to it, I'm just not, I mean, and
I'm
if
not
so,
sure.
can they come on the 22nd and we
Maybe
can
trust
include
it.
that?
Yeah,
That would be,
that's exactly.
so if board members are interested in exploring working with KASB on that aspect of it, I will reach out to them tomorrow and find out if they have someone available that could come on the 22nd and spend some time with us. And we can't do that in that's not an executive session discussion, so it would need to be in the open meeting or in some sort of work. Can we include a work session as part of our special meeting agenda? Okay.
To do that.
So it's sort of that kind of setting to work with them and talk through creating some questions and kind of criteria to evaluate.
Yeah, and I think going in, I mean, the search firms offer a variety of services after the fact, and we didn't utilize those the last time around, and I don't think we necessarily wanted to because we are, I mean, I appreciate that you're going to attend the KSB session on evaluating superintendents. I saw that too. I wasn't able to make it, but, that kind of thing I think is really helpful. But I don't know that we necessarily are looking for a firm that can help us hire and also kind of do some of those other things. And so I think thinking through what we're looking for is going to be important, and then how we're going to meet the needs of kind of that first year goal setting, evaluation, whether or not we want to use the kinds of methods we use in-house in conjunction with the new person that's hired. That kind of helps structure what we're looking for, and I think would make the interview process go smoother. Because if we're clear at the beginning, these are the services we're looking for, we don't want you to talk about any of the others, I think that will help us a little bit too.
Okay. I'm seeing some heads nod. So then, other thoughts about that? What does everyone's availability look like on the 28th?
While you're thinking about that, have you had an opportunity to decide whether you want to interview one, two, or all three of these firms?
I'll just state my preference after looking through the proposals. I think we should bring all three of them in for an interview. I think they bring, there's kind of a wide variety of things that they bring to the table. There's also some differences in their fee structures and their approach that I think would be worth exploring.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm not ready to rule anyone out.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, so we'll bring back all three firms for an interview.
Now, there is a motion in that board enclosure to make that formal.
Okay.
About that?
Yes, I have the motion here.
I have it here as well.
Okay.
Oh, do you want to make it? Are you, yeah, sorry, presidents normally don't, but go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. I just to make sure somebody had the motion. But before we do that, so the plan is we will bring all three firms. We will set to do the interviews on the 28th, and I'm going to reach out to KASB tomorrow to talk about having someone from there come to our meeting on the 22nd and help us do some work around preparing for that.
Yes, if possible, just to put it out there, the Lawrence Schools Foundation is having their retreat that day, and Anna and I were going, and we were going to have to leave early to get here for the
On
fight.
the 22nd?
Yes, so
Okay.
if, don't have it be before, have it be after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay,
So on the 22nd, then, you would have your budget hearing, followed by the classified administrative reports, and then the work session on search firm with KASB, question development, et
Yes.
cetera.
A marathon.
Yes.
And then the 28th,
We will do the interviews.
do the actual interviews.
Right.
Okay.
interviews starting at 7, or are we thinking an alternative
That's
start
the question.
time
What
on
time?
the 28th?
How long are we giving them? 30 minutes each, 20 minutes on questions?
I think we had talked about maybe 20 minutes and questions.
What else is on the agenda?
That would be the only thing on the agenda because
We're not
Okay,
planning to
nice.
meet on the 28th.
we weren't planning to meet.
So
Well, I
that would
think
be
7
a
is-
special meeting that,
Probably fine.
I think given school schedules and everything, 7 would be
Yeah,
appropriate.
coming earlier is more and more difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so 7 o'clock on the 28th.
Okay, so I will move that the Board of Education invite the following firms: HYA Executive Search, School Exec Connect, and Ray and Associates Incorporated to make presentations regarding their proposal to provide superintendent search services.
Second.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Sanborn,
Yes.
Yes.
Fincher,
Yes.
Norman.
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Okay, there's a number of items on future agenda items, and then the only announcement was the special board meeting on the 22nd, now an additional one on the 28th. And with that, I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.